I can hear something calling. It's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace, and welcome to the Bare Essentials podcast. As we continue on our journey to build a stronger community, I'm very excited to share with you all the Kindness Alliance, which is a unique, free of charge advertising initiative looking to support businesses that share in our core values. Each episode will look to spotlight a different member, celebrating their contributions and dedication to kindness. Would you like to get involved? Just visit the Kindness Alliance section on our website, www.thebareessentialspodcast.com, or just send me a message. And now, a huge thank you to this week's Kindness Alliance member.
Hi, Joel Maurer, founder of Dink Ninjas. Dink Ninjas was dreamed up and started right here in Austin, Texas, a dynamic pickleball community. We arm pickleballers with the paddles, apparel, and accessories to dink like a ninja. Dink Ninjas is dedicated to supporting mental health awareness and cancer research. Shop our full lineup at dinkninjas.com.
Tom, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Charles, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here.
Yeah, really excited to have you. Following you a bit on social media, on LinkedIn, and think you have a lot of good information and value to offer and provide to people. So hoping a lot of people tune in. I think they will, and I think they're going to get a lot out of this. So that being said, how about a brief introduction of yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Tom. Obviously, I know we mentioned that, but on LinkedIn, me and Charles connected. I'm a online functional health coach. So as well as being qualified as a personal trainer and going into my deeper layers of academic experience, I've now also joined up with the Institute of Health, which is a functional medicine platform, to help get a much deeper and bring to people a greater understanding of what health means. I think it's so important. Instead of just looking at health from an aesthetic perspective, it's about truly feeling good, because looking good's part of the puzzle, but if you feel like crap, then you'll still be miserable. And if you feel good, that's like a priceless feeling. So that's what I'm trying to share the message with everyone on my platforms about, how to understand functional health and how to live to your highest potential.
Awesome, Tom. And I just want to point out that within the first 2 minutes, Tom already has given a great, fantastic soundbite, as looking good is only part of the puzzle. That's awesome. Thanks, Tom. I also noticed that following you now, you wrote a book, Stronger Inside Out. And yeah, I wanted to ask, what personal experience led you to write that book, and how has your own journey shaped the book's content?
Yeah, so we'll go way back, because it's a story that, at one point I wouldn't have wanted to talk about, but all the way from being in my childhood years, like primary school through secondary school, I had quite bad body dysmorphia, and as a kid, I'd eat what food kids eat, but I'd be like going to trying to do stupid workouts in my bedroom, and I wouldn't really know what I was doing. It was just exercise. And then as I matured into high school, I sort of went from being more skinny, but also holding like body fat in certain areas that made me feel very self-conscious. I was always comparing myself to other people that were like bigger, in better shape, better at sports. And it was just miserable. And it made me really feel quite self-conscious and become introverted. So when I was old enough to then get into training, because I'd been playing sport my whole life, and my dad took me to the gym when I was like 14, and I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was it wasn't a case of, I think when I first started, yeah, I was believing I'll be able to change the way I look. But I soon realized relatively, like after 2, 3, 4 years that, yeah, the physical changes aren't happening as quick as I wanted them to be, but my mental state was drastically in a better place because I was starting to prove to myself that maybe chasing a specific strength or sport-based goal was where it was at. It was more rewarding to see that you can get stronger and get so much from being able to just physically test myself. And I think that brought this concept of, well, what is strength to people? I mean, everyone's got a different definition of strength. And working, doing the internal work and finding what gives you that fulfillment, that inner peace, that inner purpose was what gave me the strength to then realize the aesthetic changes aren't everything. And even though I may not look as good as some people, if I was able to just improve my own strength, my own physical output, my athletic ability, it was just the most addictive feeling on this planet. And that's what led me down to sport. And 17 years down the line of training, I'm here now and coerce myself into saying, yeah, this passion, you've got a lot of knowledge in it, you've got a lot of experience, go and help people. And that was the vision. And it led me to then write the book to try and just convince people that health as I mentioned earlier, on a surface level is great, but that isn't the definition of health. So it's understanding the internal metrics as well, like gut health, how we're feeling, hormone optimization, all these little pillars that all add up to like a big jigsaw puzzle, piece by piece.
Man, I love that story. And I can see just by the first few minutes we've been having this conversation, the passion that is just exuding off of you, which that gets me excited. Bit early here, and I haven't even had one cup of coffee yet, and I'm already feeling it. So thanks. And I do want to mention, because you touched on it briefly, but please, I'm going to say it now so we don't forget. Tom had a fantastic newsletter the other day about gut health. I really, really think everybody should check it out when you have a chance. I'll try to put the links in the show notes for that also. Tom, as you were describing your experiences and how you wrote the book, and it is a topic that I talk about a lot here on my show. It is mental health, and in particularly with men, because I think men, a lot of time our physical really can have a negative impact on our mental health.
Yeah.
And as a man, we like to hold it in, and we're not real good at conveying it and talking about it. So I did want to ask you, how do you maintain that balance, not only between your physical fitness and your mental health? How do you make it all kind of coincide, and how does it work together?
Yeah, by no means am I perfect. And at one stage in my life, I was doing what most men do of bottling it up. And it was like a champagne bottle that was just ready to pop. And it wasn't a good space for me. And when the only person that actually managed to call me out on it was my brother. One day me and him were arguing, and I just totally broke down. And that was how it sort of all came to fruition of, we need to have these deeper layer conversations of how we're feeling. Because we're in a time and age where there is so much pressure and external influence from social media especially, where men really feel inadequate, and they feel it's a sign of weakness to share mental health struggles. But it's not a sign of weakness at all. You're human. We burden enough on ourselves as it is, as men. And even though it's a bit of a taboo subject, I got into the position now of realizing that if I can be honest and share my own vulnerability, and I always will, I'll talk about it on every platform. If anyone wants to talk to me about it, I'll always openly share. And then I had the belief of, that may not be the easiest thing for me, but if it can convince one other person to do so, and just give them the strength to speak to somebody, check in on a friend or speak to their family, that's what matters. Because to lose people, especially with men's suicide, it's continually increasing year on year. And it's so sad to see men with so much potential, but they see that they are so inadequate and not worthy of thinking the planet doesn't need them here. Like, and they're leaving families behind and friends. And for me personally, you know, I don't want to see any of my close friends and family or anyone I've had a connection with to take that choice. So if me sharing helps one person, that's the whole point of it. You know, we are like pressure cookers, and we need to release that steam, and it's not weakness doing so. So to any men that watch this and feel that they're in a bit of a tight spot, that's life. And just remember that there's a saying that I always remember, and it's this too shall pass. Don't judge your life and make a rash decision on basically a snapshot of a huge journey. You know, you've got a lot of potential in this world, so people need to realize that physical health's great, but if you work on the mental game as well and talk to the right people, learn from the right people, you can exponentially improve, you know, your overall quality of life.
Amen to that, Tom. It's something that is somewhat of an epidemic. I hope it hasn't, but I mean, for me, I've seen it hit too close to home. Hope it hasn't for you, but sounds like it could have. And it is people like you being willing to open up and share about it. I think it gives other men courage to not hold it in. And you know what you said there is so important. It's definitely, don't make one rash decision based on a snapshot, because it too shall pass.
Yeah.
So Tom, I think that the work that you're doing, though, and not just being here and talking about the mental health, but I think the work that you're doing is so important about the physical well-being, because I think being physically stronger, it helps us be mentally fit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on, because I think there's a lot of them out there today. What misconceptions about health and fitness have you personally come across, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah. Now, I'll go back to everybody's been this at one stage. They probably learnt about either weightlifting, strength training, or even health and fitness in general from like a magazine article or social media. And like the visual aspect of someone who's in great shape. And that's held as the epitome of health, you know. So everyone hides this as people that are in the bodybuilding world, for example, get probably the most attention for their aesthetic appearance. And like that was my belief of what health was. And then the more I've been in this industry, the more I got in shape. You know, I felt great, but did it make me happier? Probably not. And then when I've spoke to people that have competitively been in bodybuilding, and we discuss it a lot in the institute, when you are stage ready and you look your best, you are feeling your absolute worst. Like people that compete on stage will tell you they feel drained, you know, their sex drive's gone, they've got very little energy. Women lose their cycle when they get to that low body percentage fat. So what's seen as health and impressive for a picture is not health. It's a temporary snapshot. Yeah, they don't stay that way all year round, though some people try to, and it's really unadvisable. That was like one of the light bulb moments for me to say, okay, so basically what looks great isn't always the best thing. And I think that was probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I have, and still most people, especially a lot of teenagers now, because when I grew up, social media was just sort of starting out. So, but now children are exposed to it from like the ages of 10 if they get a phone. And it's frightening. It's really frightening because that's their first interpretation that they're seeing of what they need to live to and what they need to be. And I think social media is a blessing. It's also a curse at the same time, that the fact that we're delivering this content now of kids trying to grow up quicker, which is really, really, I think, a big topic that needs to be brought to the forefront in schools, in general, in homes, to just give kids more understanding that you're a child. So don't rush your childhood years to be something that you think is going to get you there somewhere quicker, essentially.
Yeah, that actually resonates with me because, I told you a little bit before we started. My wife and I have been on our own fitness journey, and those who watch and listen to the show know that, we've lost a lot of weight. We've been through it, but
Yeah.
I feel fortunate because my four children, Tom, they kind of stayed fit and healthy despite myself and my wife years ago, right? They all stayed healthy, and I'm grateful for that. And they continue to stay healthy and work out. But I think something you touched on there is the kids, they're always watching the adults
Yeah.
and they mimic what they see for the most part. I was lucky that they didn't mimic everything they saw, but most kids do. So for parents listening, really this matters for what the example you're setting for your children. So
Yeah.
pay attention to it. So as far as health, a lot of people think of exercise, working out, and I think now it's becoming a little more prevalent, and we talked about it again a little bit before we started, but nutrition.
Yeah.
So any pivotal moments where proper nutrition really changed your fitness journey?
Yeah, yeah. There's one that really stands out for me, and again, this links back to when I talked about me having body dysmorphia. Expanding on that, I also developed something called orthorexia nervosa, and that was an obsession with eating what I deemed as only healthy, like really healthy foods. That was like a real thing for me. I would, even though I was training right, the food was a real big obsession for me. Like weighing everything out, getting all my meals balanced, because for some reason that, like, I've always resonated with a structured lifestyle. So that just tied in ever so nicely. And then I wasn't seeing the red warning signs of this is unhealthy. So what I was doing was I would buy all the low fat foods, and everyone's been there in the supermarket, all the branding marketing, it's like low fat, low calorie. And those buzzwords were like, yeah, awesome, I'm buying that. And then when I got more into my studies and about nutrition, and especially on the functional health side, about, macronutrients detect energy usage, but micronutrients dictate the language of our cells. So that paradigm for me shifted, and I realized that even though something may be more calorically dense, let's say, because we've both had this discussion about calories, do they matter or do they not? Sometimes the option of something that is a higher caloric intake compared to another option, but it delivers more quality nutrition in terms of the micronutrient profile, is absolutely the better option. So when I used to be so concentrated around counting calories for food, it was liberating, because I soon realized that I'm going to give this a go. And I tried it. My health and the way I felt, the way I functioned, my strength, my performance, all improved. And I've had it with a number of clients. I've had it with other coaches that I've worked with. They've all said there's been that light bulb moment of, yes, you can track the numbers if it works for you, but then also the quality of the food you're eating is a massive dictator. And that was a real big one for me. And that's what I'm really passionate about, talking to people.
Yeah, it's again, it's a message that I think a lot of people want to hear, because you mentioned the branding, and listen, I hate to say it like this, but they're bastards, man. They get us, right? Like I know I was there when when I first started my journey, I would fill my cart with low calorie, low fat. I mean, for me, it still wasn't mattering as much, because even low fat, low calorie, I was eating the whole package of the low fat cookies, which probably wasn't advisable. But I digress on that part. But yeah, no, I think it's a really powerful message, and more people need to hear it, and not just hear it. I think they need to understand it. And again, that's why I think your things like your newsletter, things like that are really, really, really helpful. Tom, I think it's something that we all need. We take it for granted unless we just had a newborn, right? It's our sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your ideal sleep routine look like, and how does that impact health?
Yeah. I cannot preach to people. I'm so happy you brought this up, because when we take sleep, people will always see that, like, let's take them as three pillars here. And let's say we've got exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And I know people that will work very hard on nutrition and exercise, and then FOMO, social media, Netflix, keeps them from sleeping. So they think they can smash these two, go to bed and sacrifice their sleep and get results. And I will tell you, you could have these absolutely perfect. You could have the best workout routine, the best nutrition. If you're not sleeping, you're going to get zero adaptation and probably going to go in the opposite direction and regress. So sleep is an absolutely fundamental principle. It's like the concrete foundation to your house. You know, you can't, it's like trying to build a sandcastle compared to building a two-story building with a concrete base. What, you know, which one's going to be stronger? So for me, the best sleep pattern that I found is like the 3-2-1 method. It's quite popular on LinkedIn. I've seen it shared a few times. But for me, I'll try to limit food to 3 hours before going to bed. So that'll be the time I'll have my last meal, my last food. And then same with my liquids, 2 hours prior to bed. And then 1 hour prior to bed is limit blue light exposure and heavy stimuluses. So this can be on your phone, watching TV, playing video games. Huge, more research is coming out showing that blue light stimulation is interfering with people's ability to get deep, restful sleep. So the blue light that's emitted from electrical devices is a big causer. So things that people can do is buy blue light blocking glasses. They are a relatively small investment, but they've been a real game changer for myself. Guilty sometimes I have to work on my laptop till just before going to bed, but using the blue light blockers has been phenomenal. I still feel tired even if I'm doing some work. If you swap from your LED lights, because they're incredibly bright, to incandescent lamps like a desk lamp, or swapping in your bedroom to an incandescent lamp, or even a salt lamp can be a great way to do it. If you want to get the best way, use a candle, like a beeswax candle. Natural light, again, helps just to get us into a state of calmness. I think those are three of the best things we can do. And then you can do things like warm baths or showers close to bedtime, because they help to draw the body's core temperature down by drawing heat to the extremities. So it allows our core to cool down. So allows us to get to sleep quicker. And you can use things like magnesium or zinc close to bedtime, because magnesium helps us to also get more deep restful sleep. And it's so important, sleep in itself, just for the whole regeneration, recovery, and dealing with oxidative stress of everyday life is so paramountly important for good sleep. And it's a huge topic that doesn't get enough attention for how important it really is.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I got to be honest with you, I have never saw the 3-2-1 method. I've never heard it put that way. That's really, that's really good. I was, as you were saying it, I was thinking, I can't wait to tell my wife about that when we're done here, the 3-2-1 method. So
yeah,
that's
awesome.
really good stuff. Thank you for the information. So in your work, you got any stories about any client transformation that has really resonated and just made you feel like this is what it's about?
Yeah, funnily enough, it was a client that was struggling with sleep, and it follows on nicely. And he's a friend locally that's got a very successful business, and he was into the whole functional health scene, but not as in depth as I am. And he was using the Aura Ring, so it was tracking his sleep quality, because our smart devices have become a big part of life. And his sleep quality was like 30% all the time. And did his bloods with him, did like my functional health assessment, and there was just signs of basically adrenal hyperfunction or stress, excessive stress. So I gave him a number of tools to help him bring the stress down. We started grounding. I said, I want you to read close to bed instead of watching TV. I want you to utilize, we can use like herbals and aromatherapies. So we had some lavender, some essential oils close to bedtime. We were using chamomile tea and valerian tea as like his last drink before going to bed. And within a short 1 to 2 weeks, it was up to like 70, 80, then 90%. And, you know, stress is a real big silent killer. It truly is. And I think we are so poorly adapted on how to deal with stress because no one's really taught about it. You only learn about it if you talk to the right people or You by chance stumble across it on a podcast and it takes your interest. Because how everyone deals with stress and how everyone interprets stress is completely unique. Like what may stress me out, you may find it a walk in the park and vice versa. So it's about realizing when we're showing the signs of it and knowing that there are ways for us to actually deal with it. They don't involve just basically getting angry and taking it out on our loved ones, and don't involve just bottling it up. So it's about how we can process and how we actually think and put ourselves in a mental state. People don't realize that your thoughts will massively influence your health status, without a shadow of a doubt. If you don't deal with stress properly and it's in your head and it's ruminating, your garden, your internal garden will start to grow weeds very quickly.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think that's another thing as everybody starts to try to take their health more seriously. And, you started from the beginning when you talked about, the misconceptions of it's just about the way you look. And I think, throughout this podcast here, you've really started to dive into and touch on a lot of the other things that will make a difference. So I definitely thank you for that. So let's get a little more personal. What kind of personal challenges did you face when you were transforming your own physique? And how did you address those in your book?
Yeah, so one of my favorite points was because I had this like inferiority complex growing up, and I felt fragile and weak, and probably going to the gym of becoming, more muscular would change it. In a way, it did, but it didn't. So one thing that led me down the path was I got into boxing and contact and combat sports. And after about a year of training, the coach just reached out to me and said, "Look, do you want to fight?" And put me on the spot, and I was like, "Yeah, okay. Let's go into the deep water and let's try what we've been learning." And it was exciting. It was the most scariest experience of my life. I'll not tell you that it wasn't, because it was, but it was also the most liberating, because I always say this to men, that I think every person, and men especially, at some point in their life should pursue a combat sport or just participate in training, not necessarily to compete, but just go, and it's so liberating. I think it's like it resonates with you on such a deep level of connecting back to what true survival was. Back in our very early ancestors, you were literally fighting to survive for your life. And it just awakened this feeling to myself of I'm not made of glass. Because that was the perception I had. Thought I was fragile. And it truly was. I can't explain to people, like competing and then winning and having your hand raised. It was like the highest of highs I could ever experience. And it was just probably one of the best things I ever decided to do to prove to myself, even though I was scared and I wanted to turn and just leave and run, that sometimes like the best fights you have are those when you stand there and you've got no option. You just put yourself into the deep end and you learn to swim, to survive. And I really enjoyed that. And I'm not saying everyone else should do it, but for me, that was one of the main turning points. And then it also cross-correlated with this idea of, something, I don't look my best, but I performed great. And it was just this like melding of like the theories together of maybe training for sport competition and having a reason to train towards like a real goal was where the secret sauce was. And it certainly was for me. And a number of clients I've worked with, like that paradigm shift's been phenomenal for people.
Man, that little segment there just gets me excited because where I live at in the States in Philadelphia, it's a pretty big MMA community.
Yeah.
Current UFC guys like Sean Brady, Paul Felder is from here, Eddie Alvarez. I personally, on my own journey, I got really into Muay Thai. Love Muay Thai. My son actually is an amateur fighter, has had amateur fights. He wrestled in high school. So the MMA and combat sports training is near and dear to us here. I really love it. And Tom, I couldn't agree with you more. I never competed actually competed per se, but just those when the Muay Thai class would be coming to an end and it was time to spar. And at the point being late 40s, close to 50 with a young 25, 30-year-old, it was scary, but it was fun. So I'm
Yeah.
really glad you brought that up. Well, I think it goes great into the next question I had here for you. So, and I could see as you were talking about that, how that champion mindset, how has that influenced your personal and professional life?
Yeah, hugely. For me now, it's about not trying to live to other people's standards. And again, this is where we come back to social media and trying to meet the live to the Joneses expectation is what we say in the UK. And live for other people's appreciation and acceptance. And again, that is a big thing with social media. For me personally, the minute I realized that people are doing a lot of what they do to please people on the internet they don't know. And, that's such an empty way to view yourself or want to live. Because I'm quite happy realizing that I'm never going to please everybody in life. And I know some people are quite worried by that thought, but to me, I embrace it. I'd rather be Marmite because Marmite's still a successful brand, whether you love it or hate it. It's there. And for me, it's about understanding, chase in life relentlessly what makes you happy and cling on to it with everything you have, because life's a short ride at the end of the day. And it's a shame to think that you will take your dreams with you to the graveyard. And I think Les Brown said that in one of his chats, and it really resonated with me, that this idea that when you're on your deathbed and you're surrounded by these visions of yourself and the potential visions you had of your ability and your hidden potential, and you just decided to never act on it. So go, literally, even if dreams are risky, the greatest risk that we don't take in life is taking none at all. And another person that I got massively into self-development, and Jim Rohn's content was really great with me. It really resonated. And he said in one of his talks, an ounce of discipline weighs far less than a ton of regret. And it was like, wow, yeah, that just makes perfect sense. So yeah, the message I have for everyone is go and be everything that you know that you can be. Dream big, and then shoot further. Funnily enough, another one that Les Brown said was, shoot for the moon, because if you miss, you'll land amongst the stars anyway. Mm. And it was like, yeah, it's just all these little bits of wisdom that really had an impact on this mindset. And if it scares you, your vision, good. Because then I've been told that that's a good indicator that the vision's big enough and it's daring enough to chase. So yeah, to anyone that watches this, go and pursue relentlessly what you want to be good at in life, and surround yourself with the right kind of people that are engines that propel you forward. And anyone that's an anchor, get rid of them. Just cut them off, because you don't need that kind of energy in life. Surround yourself with people that really want to see you excel and achieve. That's what life's all about.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I think you just summed up the last 5 years of my life in that segment there, Tom. Honestly, that's what this podcast is for me. It's just, what, hell with it. I don't care that some people, and I'm sure you may hear this, but I may have an accent, right? I may phrase my words funny. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I love to talk to people, and I hope that I give a message to people that will help them. And it's having people like you on here to help do that. So, yeah, amen to everything you just said there. I absolutely love that sentiment. Yeah. All right. So coming close to the end here, but obviously you're fit. Obviously you take your health seriously. So could we maybe talk a little bit about how you incorporate your own self-care routine into your daily life, and why, Tom, why is that so critical for not just our confidence, but for our happiness overall?
Yeah, for people that know me well, I absolutely live and breathe this. I don't just talk the talk. I like to think I walk the walk with You know, I train 5 days a week, and I try to stay on top of my physical strength and conditioning is very important. I see it as the best investment you can make, better than any bank, any better than any financial investment, because this is the only real estate I have to call home. I don't have a backup plan. I don't have another, like, I can't go to the shop and buy another body. And it's going to carry me through my whole lifetime. Now, we see a massive cross correlation with people that as you age, the actual tissue of youth is muscle tissue, because it's the one thing that will keep you independent. It's the one thing that will keep you to, you know, stay mobile to walk your kids down the aisle. It's the one that's going to stay mobile for you to play with your grandkids. It's the tissue that's going to support you if you have a fall and you land. It's not going to cause you to break your hip, because you've got some sort of insulation to the frame to help protect the bones as we get older, because osteoporosis can set in if with lack of activity. So for me personally, it's like I said, it is my non-negotiable, and it's the first thing I do in my day. It doesn't work for everybody, but for me, I get up and 4 a.m. I go to the gym. And the reason for that it works for me is because it's a very hard and demanding thing to want to do straight out of bed. But that's exactly why I do it, because it sets the tone that I've done something difficult this morning, and that's my tone set for the rest of the day. So it gives me this sort of rocket boost to then take the day and go, okay, today's off to a good start already. You went and did something hard. Even if the session may not have been the best every now and then, because everyone has great sessions and you know, sessions that aren't as good. But I still turned up, and showing up's the hardest part. So for me, like, that is, you know, if I talk about non-negotiables, and I think a mindset thing around it is, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, you know, because again, with social media, you know, you see people, they share their routines, and it's like, I'll have this special brew of coffee. I'll go and meditate for 40 minutes. I'll then have an ice plunge, and then I'll go and, you know, do something that's really extravagant. And it looks great, but not everybody needs to do that. You know, just have a routine that helps you to be the best version of you. That is the simplest bit of advice I have for everybody. And I think there was a video of a Navy SEAL about sharing his routine. He was like, the first thing you do in the morning is make your bed. So just get up and make your bed, because you've done something straight away. You know, that task is done. And it sets like the stone rolling down the hill to build momentum. And I found that really interesting as a concept, even though how simple it was truly interesting. So for me, yeah, it's just set your non-negotiables, and, you know, that's why structure to my day helps me to get as much done as I physically can.
Yeah, that's really touched on some great points there. I have a friend of mine. It reminded me of something we talked about before. You had mentioned about it's not always going to be a great workout, right? But he always would say, you just show up and give 100% of whatever you have.
Yeah.
So that may not be your best, but as long as it's 100% of what you have, then you did well.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah.
So now really, really good stuff. All right. So seeing not only your fitness, everything, you seem like you really have some ideas. So I wanted to kind of end with this. So based on your experience, what any thoughts on future trends in health and fitness that excite you, and why?
Yeah, well, I've now seen people certainly take health more seriously. Even though we're not quite where I'd like it to be, it's certainly getting a bit more attention. With the global pandemic, you know, everyone realized that a good health status was massively protective for the, you know, not ending up in one of the worst cases. So it excites me to see that people are taking more interest in it. It's great to see that there's more podcasts being released for people to be able to tune in and listen to. And like myself, I like to go into the absolute, like, I love the deep layers of health. So like using blood work analysis, organic acid testing, you know, stool testing. I would say this to everybody that, and this is like the final roundup thing for me is, you probably, like yourself, Charles, I imagine that you pay for insurance for your car and you have it checked every year, right? You probably do the same with the boiler in your house, have it checked every year. How often do you go and have your bloods done?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the MOT for your car, you know, the service for the boiler, but the body operational test is so indicative for helping people to get either the first like warning lights on the dashboard that something may not be right, because prevention is always better than the cure. And some people I speak to, I say, how do you feel? And they'll say, I feel fine. Okay, what's fine? Is fine 50%? Is fine 40%? Because people are generally like the general status of health for people, everyone feels like crap in general. And it's become normal. And because it's normal, they rationale that as this is what I need to feel like. And it's such a shame because when I say to people, you see, you feel fine. Imagine what feeling great will feel like every day. You know, and all you have to do is just take that bit of initiative with your health. You can leverage your health on massive ways. And waking up feeling strong, feeling energetic, not tired, not bloating after your meals, you know, not anxious about going out to eat food because you'll have to rush to the toilet depending on where you eat. That's liberating. So that's it, you know, for me, just take this deeper interest in your own health and well-being, because you can only perform in your business, in your hobbies, in your relationships, as good as your health will allow you to. The minute that you improve your health, you will show up in your best form in all these other areas. So it's like casting like pebbles in a lake and the ripples fire out. That's exactly what it's like. And if you've got kids as well, you'll be setting such a strong example to your children that health is like a real treasure that we need to protect, because the better your health is, the more you can leverage the most precious currency we have of time. Because if people had all the money in the world but were sick and ill, they can't enjoy it. You know,
Yeah.
they can't enjoy it because they've lost their ability to have the freedom to enjoy it. Whereas you can find someone who may nowhere near be as well off, feels and performs great, and they're very happy because they can go and do as they please. You know, they're not waking up with an ailment or an illness that was probably preventative or manageable at the least. So yeah, that's the exciting thing, is people taking it more seriously, and I hope that more people taking interest to get their labs done, get checked up, and optimize their health as best as possible.
Well, I think people like yourself, Tom, are making that more prevalent, and it's really resonating more with people. And I think also, I do want to add this because I think it's people like you. Unfortunately, I think there has become somewhat of a distrust between people
Yeah.
and the medical community. And I
Yeah.
think it's people like yourself who build that trust and help people think more about ways of how to navigate this landscape of what I'll say is the health span.
Yeah.
And they're not wondering, because when I look at health and I look back at my grandparents, that was about go to the doctor and what pills were they going to take, right? So
Yeah.
I just want to say personally, kudos to you, Tom. Honestly, I believe what you're doing is important work. It's needed work. And I think, again, I'm across the pond here, but you seem like an extremely authentic and genuine individual that I think people should trust you and take what you're saying really seriously. So, Tom, thanks for that. And on that, how can people find more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Charles, thank you for the kind words, because this is my absolute passion. I know it's hard to convey passion in a video or like this podcast, but I live and breathe this. You know, without this, I would feel so lost in life. So for me, I genuinely love the space, and just helping people is the whole reason I got into it. You know, money's great, but someone, changing someone's health, giving them the ability to do things they didn't have, is like another form of a drug or high. But for anyone that wants to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. So Tom Hudson, that's how me and Charles connected. I'm on Instagram as well, at Zenith Health Coaching, which I'll probably send you a link across to put in the show notes if needed. Then I'm hopefully going to start up a bit of more of a longer in-depth video series on my YouTube channel to just do more in-depth talks about health, and hopefully share clips from like podcasts such as this one, be able to share and just show people about these deeper layer conversations we need to have around health, especially men's health, and mental well-being. So yeah, and that's Zenith Health Coaching on YouTube. So anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm always open for a chat and I'll always listen.
Fantastic. And Tom's not BS in there, because literally I think I just asked him last week about being on the podcast, and here we are a couple days later. So Tom is true to what he says. He's a man who's, reach out to Tom. He's definitely that guy. So Tom, this has been fantastic. I greatly appreciate it. And again, kudos to you and what you're doing. I wish you a lot of success. I'm excited for people to hopefully get a lot out of this, Tom, and I think they will. So thank you again. And
no, thank you, Charles. I really appreciate the invite on the podcast. It's an awesome platform and you deserve every success from it.
Well, Tom, thanks so much, man. And as always, thanks everybody for watching. Let us know what you think. Reach out to Tom, reach out to me. Glad to have your support. Thank you all. Take care. Bye.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.